What's up everybody, Sunkissed here, and in today's video we're going to be going over a full endgame raid build. This build is very high damage output and also keeps you very tanky, so hopefully you enjoy the video and learn something new. Quickly before we get into the video, I'll just ask that you subscribe as we're getting very close to 5,000 subscribers, so every sub is appreciated. I'd like to know down in the comments, what are you enjoying about this season so far, and I'll catch you at the end of the video. 11,000 damage, almost there. Taking a look at our weapons first, what we're going to start with here is the weapon that we used to cripple the EN06's shield, and more or less we're just going to be reflecting damage back to the EN06. I know it's not as fast as it used to be, but it still is possible. So the most important thing here is that you just have limb damage on the second star. Honestly, just as long as you have a heavy gun and limb damage as the second star, it doesn't necessarily need to be Pepper Shaker. But I do find when you're not soloing and you're helping a team, rather, getting shots in on the actual shield generator itself with this is really helpful. So once the shield breaks against the EN06, then we're going to switch over to our Enclave Plasma Flamer, which has the legendary effects Furious, Rapid, Intelligence, and Pinpointers. I happen to have the Prime Capacitor, Stabilized Flamer Barrel, and Stabilized Stock with the Short Night Vision Scope. If you can get your hands on one of these, like any flamer barrel will do, and also just anything that has an actual scope, so we can activate oh boy, I don't even know what the name of it. I'm blanking on the perk right now. There's a perk where you get extra weak point damage aiming down the sight, so we'll take advantage of that. If you can't get your hands on an Enclave Plasma Flamer, I encourage you just to use a regular Plasma Flamer, as that also still does really good damage. Next up, we have our Broadsider, and the Broadsider is a pretty decent weapon for defending the drill. This will one-shot most of the mole miners, and you'll be reloading pretty frequently, so having electricians as the 4th star will definitely be really nice. Now, I am running mine quad, but also running it without quad isn't a terrible idea, just because you would also then be triggering electricians really frequently, which kind of just stops all the mole miners and the mole rats in their tracks. Finally, our weapon for taking down the Ultracite snake is a Furious, Rapid, Fast Optimized, and Conductors Gauss Minigun with the Pentabarrel and the Tesla Coil Dynamo. Now, if you wanted to eke more damage out with this, you could run Pinpointers as the 4th star, but you're going to be having to take more consumables to stay in VATS. I know this weapon was nerfed recently in this new season here, but it still is the highest DPS weapon in the game, so it is definitely still worth using. One thing I did forget to mention while I was recording this video was the weapon that I used to take down the Ultracite Crystals stage. I just use a Cold Shoulder. Honestly, any multi-projectile weapon is going to be a good option. So you could use a beam splitter, laser rifle, any shotgun really. I've even used the harpoon gun with flechettes in the past. So just run something that has multiple projectiles and you should be in a pretty good spot for the crystal stage. I will leave some links in the description of videos that go more in depth on how to get all of the weapons and the attachments here. But just to go over it pretty quickly, the Pepper Shaker you get from Meat Week. So make sure you go to Meat Week once that's running and you can get the Pepper Shaker plans. It's also tradable, so if you know somebody that can craft the Pepper Shaker, they can drop it for you so long as it doesn't have any legendary mods on it. Or at least I should say adjusted legendary mods. It could have a random roll on it, theoretically. Next up is the Gauss Minigun. You can either get this from Minerva when she has it on sale, or you can have maxed out reputation with the Raiders and then the Gold Bullion Mortimer at the, what is it, the Crater? Up over here. They'll have the Gauss Minigun plans. Now, the Enclave Plasma Flamer. So you can actually get just regular Enclave Plasma pistols just from doing events, getting random drops, that sort of stuff. Now the modifications for these, you're gonna have to either vendor hop between Watoga Station, Watoga Shopping Plaza, and where is it up here? And Berkeley Station. There's a chance that a box mod could spawn at that vendor that has Enclave Plasma mods. Or you could attend the Enclave activities around the map, and those have chances of dropping both the Enclave Plasma mods and also some of those rare Gatling Plasma mods. As far as getting the plan for the Broadsider, that is sold by one of the vendors within White Springs. Don't remember exactly which one it is, but it is for sale in the White Springs. Now, for our armor, we're going to have two sets that we use. One of the sets is more specific to the EN06 Guardian, and that's going to be a full set of Vulcan with Aristocrats, +2 luck, Through Hikers, and Reflective on here. The reason we have Aristocrats is because Troubleshooters is not really needed anymore. The damage, or the Guardian does a lot less damage to you, so you don't really need that damage reduction as much anymore. And the new way that Aristocrats works is it'll give you damage reflection based on how many caps you have. I have 31,000 caps, so it's 4% per piece, giving us 20% chance. And I believe it goes up to 10% if you have max caps of 40,000. And the reason why we have +2 luck on here is because Ricochet, which is one of the perks that we'll be running, changes your deflect chance based on your luck. So having a really high luck will help us deflect some of the damage here. And yeah, that's just what we have for our EN06 armor. Now for our armor that we'll use for the rest of the raid, sometimes I just stay in the EN06 armor when I'm doing the drill stage, but for the most part, against the Enclave Generals, against the Crystals, against the Snake, this is the armor that I use. And we have a Chameleon on 1 piece and 4 pieces Nocturnals. This is going to give us essentially a bunch more AP, so it'll help us stay in VATS longer while we're using our Gauss Minigun. And the other stars are +2 endurance. Since I do run this as a bloodied build, having that extra endurance will help us be a little bit tankier. You could run some... Nope. And my armor just decided it wanted to get put away there. Sorry, 1 second. So you could run like +2 agility here if you'd like in the second star. That will give you some extra AP as well if you're not running a bloodied build. But as always, we got Through Hikers on there. It's just such a good 3rd star because it eliminates the need to run those perks in your perk cards. And all 4 pieces are limit breaking, so we can crit every other shot. And just in case you're curious, Vulcan armor and armor plans are earned from doing various stages of the raid. So just keep running raids and eventually you'll get all of the mods and plans that you need. So as far as our buffs go here, I like to farm XP while I'm running through raids, so I will run some XP buffs as well as a damage buff. So I am an herbivore, so I do run Blight Soup here. And then I also run Brain Fungus Soup, which gives us +5 intelligence. You could run Brain Bombs, which gives you +8, but that, in my opinion, that's much harder to farm for, versus Brain Fungus Soup is very easy to do. So I just run that. And then I also run a Company Tea and Cranberry Relish. Those are kind of the most important ones. There's other ones kind of that aren't as important that you could run if you have access to it, like Fire Cap Soup to give you extra energy resistance. Not really needed as much anymore. And then another really helpful one, if you have the producer at your camp, is Pumpkin Pie. That will give us extra max health. And no matter what build you're running, that's always really nice to have. Occasionally, I will run a Big Gun Bobblehead or a Tesla Science 9, which gives us extra crit damage. And then for a chem, I run... Where is it? Psycho Buff. Again, these aren't all needed. That's just what I personally run when I'm trying to just get the absolute highest DPS that I can. And for our mutations here, This is what I run on all my builds, but we have Adrenal Reaction, Bird Bones, Eagle Eyes, Egghead, Healing Factor, Herbivore, so we can get extra damage from that Blight Soup, Herd Mentality, Marsupial, and Speed Demon. I'll leave a couple of links down in the description for some of the more important food buffs, primarily the XP ones, so Brain Fungus Soup, Cranberry Relish, and Blight Soup. I'll just leave a couple links of farming guides for those. So there's two class builds that we use for this raid build here. So the first one's going to be for the EN06, and potentially the drill. Doesn't really matter too much, honestly, what your build for the drill is, just that you have max movement speed, which I'll go over in a minute here. So the special point allocation is 9 strength, 8 perception, 7 endurance, 3 charisma, 13 intelligence, 10 agility, and 6 luck. Over in our legendary perk cards, we have 4 of the special cards maxed out. We have follow through and taking one for the team. And then over in strength, this is mostly just going to be for damage here. So easy target for extra damage against the guardian after we break the shield. Bullet storm and lock and load, not really needed. Just have them there because why not? Strong back for extra carry weight, and bandolier for extra, I guess, reduced ballistic ammo weight. Number cruncher, tank killer, tormentor, smart shot, and center masochist. These are all definitely mandatory for the guardian, especially if you're going to be using the Enclave plasma flamer. Center masochist helps do a ton of extra damage against the torso since that's its weak point. Smart shot will do extra damage while you're aiming down sights through your scope. Tormentor will give you extra damage against the guardian after it's crippled. And over in endurance here, we just have a few tanky related cards and bullet shield so that we can deflect some of the damage back to the guardian. Over in charisma, we have strange numbers and squad maneuvers. They recently increased the total max movement speed cap to 150%. So this is definitely really helpful when you're going to get field canisters in the second stage. You just really zoom by the Ultracite mole miners. Sometimes they just don't even have enough time to do the melee animation because you run past them so fast. I am running this as a bloodied build, so I have Nerd Rage, Power User, batteries included, Good Assault, Field Surgeon, and Science. I'd say the most important one here is Science, since that's going to buff our Enclave Plasma Flamer damage. Over in Agility, we have 1 rank of Gunrunner, so that way we get plus 10% movement speed there, and then plus 30%, plus 20% movement speed here. So those two things in combination with the Mutation Speed Demon will give us the max movement speed possible. Then we just have the Gunslinger, Gorilla, those type of cards for Onslaught maxed out. 1 rank of Gorilla. We have Covert Operative to increase our sneak damage multiplier once the shield is broken. And 1 Gun Army so that we can reflect extra limb damage back to the Guardian. Class Freak to buff our mutations. Luck of the Draw just because why not. And Ricochet, as I mentioned earlier, so we can deflect some damage back. Also, Quick Hands is just a nice to have in case you don't end up one staging or one megging the EN06. There's a possibility you could just instantly reload your magazine. All right, we're going to do a quick walkthrough of how we handle the Guardian here. You're going to notice I'm going to get myself pretty low health here, and that's because the Guardian is not really that powerful anymore in terms of being able to take you down. So first things first is we're going to have our Pepper Shaker out so we can help reflect limb damage back to the Guardian. And we can still stand right here, and our Enclave Plasma Flamer will reach once we're done here. We're just going to sit here crouched, and we're going to be firing our Pepper Shaker every few seconds to keep Bullet Shield active. Wait till we're in caution, and then we'll go ahead and use our Enclave Plasma Flamer. And we're hitting like 11,000 damage almost there. So got it done in 107. That's honestly pretty close to what I used to get. All right, now taking a look at our Ultracite Snake / rest of raid build. Here's the special point allocation. We're still going to be rocking the exact same legendary cards here. But we are more spec'd for Bullet Storm here. We also have easy target on. When I solo, I don't necessarily go for crippling, but normally if I'm in a group, someone will end up crippling one of the limbs. So having this as a option is always nice. Obviously, Bullet Storm is going to give us a lot of extra damage there. In Perception, we have Number Cruncher, Tank Killer, Concentrated Fire, and Awareness. Endurance, we have a few tankiness related cards and Thirst Quencher for extra AP. Strange in Numbers, buff our mutations. Again, I can't get enough of the movement speed, so I've just honestly been running squad maneuvers on all of my builds now. Nerd Rage for extra damage, Demolition Expert for extra damage, Curator to buff our magazines and our, I guess give us extra duration on our magazines, bobbleheads. Scoop Assault and batteries included, and Power User are just nice to haves. And then in Agility, mostly just Gunslinger / Onslaught cards, 1 rank of Born Survivor just for some quality of life in case we get too low. And again, Gun Runner just because I like running around like crazy. Over in Luck, we have 1 Gun Army, Ricochet, Class Freak, Better Criticals, 4-Leaf Clover, and Critical Savvy. Alright, now we're going to walk through a quick example for the Ultracite Snake here. We do have some buffs active, so we got the Big Gun Bobblehead, Tesla Science 9 for heavy gun crit damage, got Blight Soup for extra crit damage, and then I'm also going to take a Psycho buff here, and I normally will take either coffee or, cake or pumpkin pie, something like that. So I'll go ahead and take some of my pumpkin pies for AP, and we'll go ahead and see how we do against the snake here. Overall, some really good damage output so far. Now our damage should really start melting a little bit here. Stimpak again here. And a 40-second solo, or 46-second solo first try. I'd say that's pretty effective. Thank you so much for making it to this point of the video. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified for future videos. If you'd like to check out my last video around a harpoon gun build alongside the named weapon, the Icebreaker, that'll be on screen now. And hope to see you in future videos. Thanks again for watching. Catch you later.